So, I'm betting at least some of you watching this video also watch traditional sports. How many of you watch esports though? If I had to guess, I'd say the number of people who'd raise their hands to that question increases rapidly each year. As of now, I don't personally keep up with most esports. I'll watch matches from high-level fighting game competitions like EVO, and if you can consider them esports, I'm also an extremely avid fan of speedruns. Back around 2005, 2006 or so, I was really into some sort of Xbox-sponsored MLG thing, where they would have high-level competitions in games like Project Gotham Racing 3, Dead or Alive 4, and I think some first-person shooter, but I'm not sure. Nowadays, though, I don't keep up with the popular stuff, since a lot of it is just MOBAs and things, which aren't really my style. Still, I think esports are important for games, and I fully believe they're here to stay. And yet, just like every new form of entertainment, older generations don't like to treat it with anything but disdain and disrespect. I find it rather grating to hear people talk about how professional gamers are lazy, dumb, don't deserve the money or fans they might win, and that the whole entire esports thing is a pathetic waste of time. First of all, whether they like it or not, esports are sports. The widely accepted origin of the word sport comes from France. From what I could gather, it was initially used to describe when rich nobles paid to hunt and shoot animals from atop a horse, in a way that's not so different from modern trophy hunting. Not a contest, nor was it necessarily skill-based, it was largely pure entertainment. The modern definition of a sport, given to us by the Association for the largest international sports federations, Sport Accord, follow these criteria. It must have an element of competition. It must be in no way harmful to living creatures. It must not rely on equipment supplied only by a single supplier. And it must not rely on any form of luck specifically designed into the sport. Now, the only one of these that not all esports follow is the final rule. Then again, many official sports have luck sewn into them. American football relies on a coin toss to start the game, with the winning team getting to choose whether to kick or receive the ball first. The opposing team then gets to choose which goal is theirs. There are several factors that go into this decision, not the least of which is wind and other weather factors. If you're Green Bay and you're playing an evening home game against the Dolphins in the dead of winter, you might want to kick first. This ensures that you automatically receive at the start of the second half, when your opponents, who are used to balmy weather all year, are absolutely frozen solid. And all of this based off of a coin toss, which last I checked is luck. And that's not even bringing up the fact that sports like rugby, American football, boxing, UFC, MMA, and hockey are openly designed around harming your opponents. Last time I checked, all of the players need to be living creatures to play. And we also can't forget that sport is a term supposedly derived from the king of all forms of hurting living things, hunting. Clearly, having a bit of luck in a video game isn't that big of a deal, particularly since devs usually try to limit luck as much as possible. These people will also complain about the lack of athleticism in gaming. Aside from the fact that that's straight up false, they'll also consider stuff like billiards or automotive racing sports, despite these activities not overtly showcasing athletic prowess. Many of these esport dissenters seem super scared that video games will end up in the Olympics. I'd say it's fine if games ended up in the Olympics. The Olympics includes stuff like synchronized swimming, equestrian sports, and other less overtly athletic, more artistic or mental sports as well. What really is the difference exactly? I think part of the problem stems from how far removed games can be from real life sometimes. Players play as a character that isn't themselves, in a world that may or may not resemble ours. In that way, it inherently feels detached from real skill if you haven't actually spent much time playing these games yourself. But that has less to do with the activities and more to do with the perspective they're viewed through. Playing video games professionally is no more ridiculous than grown men playing a game like football. It's not a sport, it's a game, they say. Yeah, and so are traditional sports. Some of them were designed as rudimentary military training. Some of them were designed to pass the time without going crazy. Some were designed as a way to test skills. Some of them were designed specifically for kids to play, and then those kids became adults and they just never stopped playing. All sports are games to some extent. They're fun entertainment taken to the extreme. Again, I ask, what really is the difference with video games exactly? I'll tell you the difference. In many ways, since they're so fresh, they're better suited for modern thinking. They better respect present-day ideals. For example, esports are actually much more inclusive to women inherently. In most sports, women are relegated to the background. They can't join the men's leagues, and their own leagues are much smaller due to a smaller marketing push. They rarely get the respect they deserve, particularly outside of the Olympics. Esports may technically mostly be dominated by men for now, but there's no hard divide forcing it to be that way. There are no major women's or men's leagues in esports. Men and women can both play on the same team or against each other. If a woman or a team of women are good enough, they can compete with the men on the same stage for the same fame and winnings. And the same goes for race and cultural differences. Being black or white or Chinese or Irish, that doesn't inherently impact your success in esports. If we break it down, there are 3 very powerful things about esports. First, they can be about anything: racing, shooting, flying, team sports, individual sports, fantasy, sci-fi. Secondly, they transcend language and culture to a large degree. Most traditional sports do this as well, but it's still important to note. And finally, they are much more relatable and attainable goals for the viewers. Again, women are given the same chance at the same stage, but so is everyone else. If you're not tall, you probably won't be a pro basketball player today. If you don't have a lot of money, you probably won't be a pro Le Mans driver. If you aren't a man, you won't become a quarterback in the NFL. But anyone can buy a PC and learn a game. The only thing that really inhibits this is the state of the country you live in. But that really goes for every sport. Anyone can learn a video game, and anyone can get up on the same big stage and compete to prove they're the best at that game. My favorite esport personally, though not really considered one, is speedrunning. If you think about it, it's not really different from, say, sprints, lap swimming, or triathlons. The focus is on the precision and skill of an individual. I love how genius speedruns can be, and how astonishingly skilled these players are. And the best thing is that you can run nearly any game in a multitude of ways, giving this one competition an infinite number of ways to compete. You know, people complain about kids getting scholarships for games today, but honestly, how in the world is that different from traditional sports? What do either of them have to do with higher education? In reality, nothing. It's all about the money. Having big college athletes at your school who make it bigger in the pros drives people to your school. Having big college gamers at your school who make it bigger in the pros could one day do the same. It's funny how these people on the outside looking in assume it's easy to play these games at such a high level. But hand them a controller and you'd be lucky to get them to face anything but the ground or the sky, walking into walls and constantly staring at the buttons on the controller like it's an alien device from the future. They're actively simplifying and ignoring the skills and accomplishments of the best gamers. It's insulting, frankly. In reality, this is what it boils down to. The people on ESPN and such who trash talk esports are just cranky old men trying to prove they've got the biggest dick. They're dragging another group's children's games through the mud so they can feel better about obsessing over their own children's games. All the while trying to mask the fact that it's a silly game in the first place. It's a facade, a barrier erected so that people don't question the fact that they've spent their whole lives devoted to games. And you know what? They're right to want that respect for the games they love. They shouldn't have people questioning the legitimacy of their passions any more than those who take part in or enjoy esports. Food for thought. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in another one, here's the last one that I uploaded. You can also follow me on Twitter or subscribe by hitting the subscribe button.